Good. I'm hoping the bundles are good, and I'm hoping the broadcast is clear. Please jump on very quickly and see if we can get the show on the road. And if you can, please tell me as I'm watching this, if you can tell me if we're loud and clear. I don't have my lavalier. Sorry, my phone. The battery's flat on this one, so I'm totally depending on this phone in front of me here to sort of transmit this broadcast. Although I'm not seeing your comments, and I had a spare pair of glasses that I'm using, loud and clear. Hey, Bo, watching from Solihull. Hey, Joseph, thank you so much. Thank you, appreciate that. Right before the kerfuffle that happened in the new market, I have two pairs of glasses. That first pair, the pair that I had in the market, is gone, mate. I don't even know where it was because it just totally disappeared in the flying stones and flying rocks. And so luckily I have a spare pair in my office, and that's the one I'm wearing now. Okay, now because I'm using my main primary phone, it's been ringing constantly, and I'm hoping that I can get the message that I need to get across amidst the interruption of phone calls. If you're watching and you've got my 097 number, please don't call for now. If you could give me a moment to finish what I'm doing. Guys, I must tell you, I am very fortunate. That situation could have gone horribly, well, it did go horribly wrong, but there was a moment where I thought, this is the end. This is it. They're just gonna, they're gonna kill me. I really thought that. But before I get to that part of my address, let me explain the anatomy of this chaos. Now, you have to understand it holistically. If you consume this story in parts, you won't get it. You know, it's like watching the film Breaking Bad, you know, the Netflix special Breaking Bad. If you don't watch it holistically, you miss the whole essence of the story. In the same way, if you don't get the very important components of the story, you'll misunderstand it. You'll misunderstand it by saying, no, mwewa he's got no business being in that market. Oh, no, mwewa should just leave the marketeers alone. If you look at it through those spectacles, if you observe this issue through that lens, then you would have missed the point completely. I know I look ridiculous with this, but it is what it is. I've got a cut on. They stoned me on my head. I'm very fortunate that it didn't go into my eye. I could have easily lost an eye. Well, it was going to be worse than that. It was going to be, I'll explain. It was going to be worse than an eye loss. I'll explain. So let me take you back, first of all, to when the market was announced, the new Simon Ware Lane market. Now, let's be clear, because some people don't understand the role I play in this market. I'm not a government employee, but I am a community stakeholder. Okay, we have a business located here on this Simon Ware Lane. We have a business located within this perimeter. So as stakeholders, I've always said this, the people that should drive change in any community are invested stakeholders. Understand that, okay? If you've got a community and a tenant, let's say in Avondale, a tenant is creating a market in front of the house that he rents, that tenant is not a stakeholder in that community. The stakeholder is the owner of the house. So the owner of a house in a community is a stakeholder. Therefore, everything and anything that happens in that community, that stakeholder has the right to participate. Does that gel with you? Does that make any sense? So in the same vein, by the same token, we being Simoson Building here in this area, everything and anything that affects this business community, we are part of the stakeholders here in this community. Stakeholders are not street vendors. A street vendor is not a stakeholder. A street vendor does not pay council tax, he doesn't pay rates, he doesn't pay electricity, he doesn't pay water, doesn't pay employees. A stakeholder is a marketeer in the market. Because in the market, that marketeer is paying money to the council. Council is using that money ideally to improve the community. So those are stakeholders. That is the role I play. Because I know in Zambia, you misunderstand it when you think of it that way. So having established that Simoson Building, not just us, Simoson Building, along with all the other business houses here, are stakeholders. I am the only one who has taken an active role in being part of an effort to try and at least bring sanity here. Everyone else here are Lebanese, Asian, Indian. You will never hear a kada, a marketeer, anyone attacking an Indian or a Lebanese. Never. But because it's a black Zambian mwewa, who is a stakeholder in this community, who simply wants functionality in this business community. For example, something as simple as making sure that the roads are clear. The road is clear, unblocked, unfettered, uninhibited. Ioni issue. Why mwewa ukamba na vendors, leave them. Basi wazichita trade mo road. Yeah, but if you block the road, it means the business community here does not benefit from accessibility. When the road is accessible, more money comes into the community because people are driving in, driving through, driving out quicker. That's the line of logic. But if you sit and say, no, trade road, it blocks traffic, it slows production, it slows commerce, it slows up the movement of money. That's the line of logic. So my point is, because I have decided to be vocal, I've decided to be active in our community as an active participant. And the right for people to participate in any community effort are stakeholders. Stakeholders that are invested in that community. Not people who have a stand on the street. Those are not stakeholders. They're not. Because they don't pay any council. They pay no statutory obligation. Zero. So that's not a voice you should be listening to. The voice you should be listening to is an invested stakeholder in the community. And this is the reason I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter where you live. As long as you own the house, everything that happens in your community, you have a direct say in it. Don't allow people to intimidate you into thinking, no, Osakambako, Wilalandako. No, that's wrong. That is a chaotic thinking. Oh, wow. That is chaotic thinking. And don't think like that. So let me go back and explain to you the anatomy of the chaos in this new market. First of all, the new market, I've always said that it is important for Lusaka City Council to hire professionals to run that market. I believe it's possible, even though it is a government edifice, even though this market and city market and other markets like it, even though they are government buildings owned by the government, heavily subsidized by the government, and rightly so, in an effort to aid and help our vulnerable women and men who are marketeers. Even though those buildings they belong to the government, I still believe it's possible to run a well-organized market that plays by the rules, that has structure, that has order, that has cleanliness. It's possible. Who says because it belongs to Boma, it must be a chaotic? Who says that? Who says because it belongs to Boma, it must be filthy? Who says that? Who says because it belongs to Boma, there should be this aura, this idea of just utter chaos? No, I believe, especially given the fact that this edifice is a brand new edifice, it is a chance to begin from scratch. Brand new. Why should a brand new building start from the very beginning with chaos? Let me explain. When this market, for a long time, more than 6-7 years, it had been under construction. There were so many irregularities that surrounded the construction of that market. And I won't get into those because I'll digress if I start talking about that. I want to be focused on the main message. When the time finally came for Lusaka City Council to identify the people who had legally and properly applied to occupy that market, when the council went through a process of selecting the successful applicants, each person who was successfully selected by Lusaka City Council was given an offer letter. Kuti, you have a space on the ground floor of this market. And it's important to point out that Simon Mwewa Lane Market is the very first market that is on at least the ground floor. The ground floor is exclusively thrift. It's exclusively Salaula, the ground floor. The entire, from A up to Z, Simon Mwewa Market is the first exclusively thrift exclusive market in the entire country, as far as I know. Everyone on the ground floor sells Salaula thrift. They do. And inside the market, I've always advocated that street vendors should not be on the street. They should be in the markets where they have access to shelter. They have access to clean toilets and water. They pay a stipend to the council. They participate in the economic activity of the area by paying their rent and stipend. Inside the market, the people who were given offer letters, a small space, to you may be small, but to them it's a diamond spot. 1.5 meters. They're only paying, in Simon Mwewa Lane Market, they're only paying 300 kwacha. Initially, it was 619 kwacha. Banamayo, our people complained, kuti, no, it is 619 mwatu charge ya furisha. Which, to be honest with you, that is not true. Marketeers may make a lot of money. The reason is our people they've got this habit of entitlement. Our people are very selfish, very entitled. Even where they're making money, they will never appreciate. They will never say, you know what? The government has built us a building, we're trading, we're making money. 619 kwachas, not so much. We'll pay it because we know that when we pay, it goes to paying bills, it goes to maintenance, it goes to cleanliness, it goes to security, it goes to maintaining the lights. Our people don't think like that. What they want is just free everything. So they will pay the bare minimum. The bare minimum. The initial amount for that 1.5 on the ground of this Simon Mwewa Lane Market, the initial amount was a 619 kwacha. Iyo 619 kwacha badi kana bana mayo ama vendors ama marketeers once they said yakurisha. Lusaka City Council, being Lusaka City Council, they heard the cries of the people and said, chachine, okay, twaumfwa mwalanda ti 619 yakurisha, twalabwesha to 300. That is now how council reduced the rentals for that 1.5 meter space to 300 kwacha per person. Now, let me show you the cunningness, the ungratefulness of our people. We are surrounded by imbeciles. I guarantee you, when you sit down with our people long enough, and I have sat down with our people for more than 25 years, I know them A up to Z. And I know how they think because I am from among them. And I spend a significant amount of time with them. So I know, and it took me years to understand them. It took me years to understand the con that our traders and our vendors run, the manipulation they use to hoodwink and deceive politicians. It took me for years to get them. But finally, I've seen them, I know them. To show you the level of selfishness, once the person who has been given an offer letter from Lusaka City Council saying, you are a successful applicant, we have given you this space, 1.5 meters, you'll be paying 300 kwacha per month to Lusaka City Council. And you are going to be using a digital platform to do it. There'll be no cash, they say. Do you know what our marketeers did? Do you want to know what they did? They occupied that space, and then they started now subletting that space at 2,000, in some cases 3,000 kwacha. Someone else will come and say, oh, I want this space. Or me being the holder of the legal owner of this space, I will cut a deal with you and say, oh, okay, you want this space? 3,000 kwacha. Pay me 3,000 kwacha per month. Vendors, traders, marketeers, they know the amount of money they make in the market. It is an astronomical amount of money. So you that are desperate for space in the market, you will pay that 3,000 kwacha per month. You pay it. To me, who has an offer letter from Lusaka City Council, I'm only paying council 300 kwacha per month. 2,700, me as a council, as a marketeer, I'm getting 2,700 for having subletted my space to someone else. The person gives me 3,000, I remove 300, give council, I remain with 2,700 for myself. Now, as a marketeer, when I leave that space, where do you think I'm going to go? I'm going to find now an area that is not supposed to be used for trading within the market. And this is what happened in this case. So all these marketeers who were given letters, who were paying 300 kwacha to council, all of them decided to become selfish. All of them decided to sublet their spaces and then move onto the stepping area where it is the stepping area is supposed to be used as a walkway, a passageway, a pathway, so that people move from one end of the market to the other uninhibited, unblocked. Are you following? Tell me in the comments if you're following. Tell me. Someone said, hashtag says good for you. Well, that's because you were not stoned. And you're not listening to what I'm saying. Because anyone with 5 senses will understand, will catch the logic of what I'm saying. But you ain't go learn that you're good for you, then you're not listening. Yes, Rebecca says yes. Yes, okay. So, when you sublet your space, remember you have an offer letter. You've started operating within the market. They've given you 1.5 meters legal space, legitimate space. You are paying council 300 kwacha. You decide to sublet. You charge someone else 3,000 kwacha. You get the 3,000, you remove 300, give the council, 27 is yours. But where do you trade from? Because you've given up your space. So you decide, oh, let's use this area here where people are supposed to pass. Let's use that. Now, to use that, you have to go through the market master. If the market has a strong power structure, if the market has a strong organizational structure that follows rules, that adheres to structure and the rule of law, the committee will simply say, no, we don't allow that. We don't allow trading on the steps, because if you start trading on the steps, what it means then is that people won't have clear access when they're walking through the market. The people will be inhibited. They'll be blocked from walking through the market. That is what a proper committee and market master is supposed to say. But this market is full of corruption. Every one of those committee members are corrupt. So they say to the marketeers who have subletted their space and who have now started occupying the steps, the same committee market masters are now telling those marketeers who've moved onto the steps, you want to continue trading from the steps? Money. 5,000, 10,000, 8,000, 7,000, 6,000. Why? Because they want to occupy an area that is not designated for trading. Now, this is the issue. When we saw this, when I say we, it's really me, okay? When I began to see this, for a long time, for more than 2 weeks, I've been engaging the relevant authorities, both at Lusaka City Council and within the market. I've been saying, why are you doing this? Because on the steps where it is not supposed to be used as a trading spot, on the steps, they started using, what do you call that spray? The spray that you do numbers. They started marking the market and giving themselves space by spraying and marking. Now, that is vandalism and graffiti. The moment you begin to deface any structure by spraying illegal markings, you are just inviting chaos. That's all. You are inviting chaos to that community. So what these marketeers were doing, after having subletted their space and moved onto the steps where they are not supposed to be, in order for them to continue on the steps, they had to part with money to pay the committee and the market masters, so that the market masters can allow them to trade where they are not supposed to trade. Here's the issue. When we elected the town clerk, the current town clerk there at Lusaka City Council, when we alerted him that this is what is happening, very quickly he dispatched council police this morning. When council police came, there's a video that I shot, that I posted on my Facebook page. Those tables that the council police were getting, they were not tables that were placed on the road. They were tables that were placed on the steps of the undesignated illegal trading area within the perimeter of the market. Council police showed up this morning at 7:55, and they began to remove those tables that were placed in the illegal undesignated spots that the marketeers had paid for illegally because they had subletted their space. So they needed a place to trade, so they decided to trade on the steps. But they couldn't trade on the steps fee free. They had to pay for it. Who did they pay? the market masters, the committee members. I'm a 10 pin, 5 pin, in some cases 15,000 kwacha, believe it or not, to allow them to trade there. When we alerted council this morning, when Councillor Mwanza this morning phoned me, and he said to me, Mr. Mwewa, we are going to swing into action this morning, and we're going to have a meeting with the committee members, and we're going to take action against the irregularities. Please come through. When I went to the market, I noticed that the truck, the council truck and the council police were there collecting these tables. Now, remember, and this is the mistake the council made. You can't go with one small truck and 2 police officers. You need enforcement. You need backup. Because our people are unruly. And let's be clear, this has nothing to do with cadarism. There was not one single cada there today. It was unruly marketeers and street vendors. Unruly marketeers and street vendors who don't like playing by the rules. They don't like structure. They don't like order. They like none of that. What they want is give them a blank check to do whatever the hell they want, to trade wherever the hell they want to trade, while ignoring the functionality of a market. Guys, anywhere you go in life, there are rules. There's something called parameter, circumference. If you want to operate in a normal community has regulations. You can't trade here. You can only trade there. Rules. Rules that marketeers don't like. So when the council started loading the tables, and I started videotaping, and I posted that video, all hell broke loose and descended on me, because all of them are on my page. All the marketeers are on my page. Now, how do you know this, Mwewa? Because this is what I did. A few years ago, I personally, physically approached every single vendor along Simon Moore Lane and along Lumumba Road. I asked them, please like my page, follow my page. I used to walk through the streets, spend 2 hours a day recruiting street vendors and marketeers. And I would even go into City Market, please like my page, like my. So whatever I post on Simon Moore Lane, they know it instantly. The moment I posted the video of council police collecting the tables, my goodness, there were more than 200 youth. Came with stones, bricks. You see, and this is why it's never a good idea to have stones and rocks and bricks on the street, because they use those as weapons. And they cornered me. And one of them threw a rock and hit me. But most of the rocks they were throwing, for some reason, miraculously, they were missing me. But the one got me. And then one guy from behind came and just blindsided me, you know, just almost knocked me out. And I began to run upstairs, and they all followed me. Now, in that moment, because they were now screaming, they were saying, you're the reason we're being removed from the street. Now, let me pause here for a moment. And I don't want to make light of this, because honestly, really, as I was saying in my preamble, I really thought today was the day I was going. I thought they're going to bludgeon me to death, because they came with the bricks and they would throw the bricks on the ground, and then they'll take a brick and some of them would say, and in that frenzy, it's very unpredictable what could possibly happen. Now, let me pause by saying this. When you have a mob of people that want to blame someone for their ills, because I kept on hearing this in the background, they always say that. Now, I want to pause there for a moment. Mufutika chan. Malo mu market banampasa. What are you suffering from? You were given a space in the market. But you subletted that space. You subletted it. You left the spot that you are legally entitled to. You sublet it at a fee of 3,000 kwacha, knowing full well that council only charges you as the legal owner of that space 300 kwacha. You remove 300 kwacha from the 3,000 kwacha that you have subletted for, and then you keep 2,700. And then you decide, well, I don't have a space, but I've got goods and I have to trade. So let me trade on the steps, which is illegal. But for you to operate on the steps, you have to part with more money to pay the committee members, the council, market masters, for you to trade there. So now, when we bring this to the attention of the town clerk, and we say, TC, this is highly irregular. This is chaos. This is bedlam. This is utter pandemonium. It is illegal. Then the town clerk acts, moves and swings into action. He sends council police to confiscate those tables, to remove them from the illegal spots that they are occupying. Let me ask you, mwavutika party? How am I asking? Mwavutika party? That's the word they were saying. Hey, tivutika. If a tivutika lina Simoson. Tizakupaya lero. Tivutika tunamana wodiesa kunyumba. Twalikuwa taba nao turedisha kunganda, turechula iwoledila. But muvutika party, wanami pasa malo. You are trading illegally. You are contributing to the dysfunction, to the chaos and the bedlam of that market. Where are you suffering? That is the question. Because it's very easy, Vane, I'm telling you, it's very easy to just cloak. Someone says, carry a gun. I can never do that. They'll shoot me. I can never carry a gun. You carry a gun, they take the gun from you and they shoot you. And then throw it on the ground and say, oh, he shot himself. Please tell me if we're back. Somebody says, I don't know if I should feel sorry or laugh. Well, you're laughing because you were not the one that was stoned. I'm sure if you were the one stoned, I can assure you, you wouldn't find that funny. I can assure you. So that's where I wanted to pause, because I wanted you to be clear about that. And keep in mind that, and I have to repeat this for clarity's sake, keep in mind that there's not a single business house along this street, along Lumumba Road. There's not a single black Zambian that will stand up and say, oh, why are street vendors blocking the road? Why? Why can't the road just be open and clear for business? Why is the market not being run correctly? No one is going to say that, because everyone on Lumumba Road, the number of black Zambian-owned businesses on Lumumba Road, I can count them on 2 fingers. Everybody else is Asian, Indian, Lebanese. You think a Lebanese guy cares about the community? You think that? You think he cares about this community? No, he doesn't. He's not a Zambian. Any day he can just leave and go to Lebanon, Beirut. Now, where am I going to go? Where would I go? You answer that. Which country would I go to? Okay, let's say, for example, they burn Simoson. Where would I go? Oh, I don't think I'd go anywhere else, because this is the only country I have. I only have one passport. I only have one citizenship. I don't have dual citizenship. I don't. It's easy for a Lebanese guy, an Asian guy, a Chinese guy who's renting a building here or even owns a building on Lumumba Road. But if things really went haywire, they would go back to their countries. The Chinese man would go back to Beijing. The Lebanese guy would go back to Lebanon. The Asian guy would go back to India. I wouldn't go anywhere. And yet, we are the ones who speak for functionality and order in the CBD. A street vendor will never break into a Lebanese office. Never. A street vendor will never stone a Lebanese. Never. A black street vendor will never attack an Indian in broad daylight. Never. But it's because it's a black Zambian, a fellow black man. Just kill him. Who the hell does he think he is? Kill him. But they would never do that to a Lebanese. Never. So here's the thing. So when they started stoning and I started running, there was blood in my this is my left eye. And I was being hit from behind, you know. And in that moment, I was thinking, oh, they're going to kill me now. I ran upstairs. One of the committee members, his name is Black Rhino. He led me into one of the little shops upstairs. Because, you know, Simon Lane Market has the ground floor, which is full of thrift, full of salaula. And then on top there are shops. Okay, and again, that's another scandal. The shops were given to party loyalists who now are selling them for 80,000 kwacha to anyone who wants to own the shops upstairs. It's true. So the shops upstairs are not even being occupied yet because the people who own the shops are waiting to sell them to people who want to run businesses in that market. They're just waiting for people to come and say, hey, I'm interested in this shop. Oh, you want this shop? I'm the rightful owner. And I'm not talking about the stands downstairs. I'm now talking about the shops on the first floor of Simon Lane Market. Those shops were given mainly to our people, our party loyalists. Those party loyalists are waiting to sell those shops, and they're selling them at 80,000 kwachas, in some cases 90,000 kwacha. So the shops upstairs are not even occupied. They're not, because they were given legally to people who want to make money on the back of a government edifice. So when I ran upstairs, thankfully, Black Rhino, his name is, I only know him as Black Rhino, one of the committee members, he's the one that led me into one of the little shops with the shutters. You know those shutters? What do you call those shutters? He pushed me into the shop, he closed the shutter, and he was standing by the door, and he was trying to negotiate with the assailants. And there were more than 200 of them. And they were saying, Chichose ncheti chipaye. And he was just one guy. One guy. And he was saying, no, don't hurt him, because if you hurt him, this, that, and the other. They forced the doors open. And the moment they were all standing with rocks. I had my phone in my hand, because the process of running up to the first floor, they were trying to grab my phone. Some were hitting me. Some were trying to grab I held on to, it was this phone here. I held on to this phone with dear life. With dear life. I held on to it, and they were hitting and pushing and throwing rocks. Black Rhino from nowhere, he just came out and just grabbed my arm, and he was leading me to this one shop. And he pushed me into the shop, closed the shutters. They all gathered and I could hear them. And they were kicking the shutters, and I was thinking, oh, they're gonna kill me. And I was trying to call the counselor and the police Nothing was going through. I don't even, I don't, well, we can laugh now, but I can tell you at the time it wasn't funny. Nothing was going through. And so I sent my wife a message. You know, I was trying to send, actually, I didn't send it. I was trying to send it. I was trying to say, honey, please just call the police. And I think this might be it. You know, these guys are out for blood. And the moment I was in the middle of texting that, the shutters opened and these boys were standing there with the stones and they were saying, just kill him. And I looked at them and in a moment of desperation, I just said, go ahead, kill me. Kill me. But this market is going to be run right, whether you like it or not. Go ahead and kill me because this market is going to be run right. And the police showed up. Thank God. Thank God. Man. What's wrong with our people, man? What's wrong with our people? Just because I said trade in the right places. You want to kill me just because I said that? Just because I said, let's have a clean market. Because if you go in the market now, nobody talks about clean. That market is filthy. Dirt, filth, nobody cares about that. Nobody. So now all of a sudden I'm the bad guy. The market's going to be run right. Those boys that attacked me, I know at least 5 of them. Each one of them are going to prison. And we're not going to stop until sanity reigns and order persists. Do you understand that? But one way or the other, we're going to have sanity. If it means getting rid of each one of those committee members and bringing in sanity and people that are tasked, that have a passion to see a market run correctly, make a profit, so be it. We will not be hounded out by thugs and hooligans. And guys, Qadas have nothing to do with this. Let's be clear. This assault and chaos and bedlam was perpetrated and hatched 100% by marketeers. And we know every last one of them. I know 5 because I see them. I know them. I know who punched me and who threw the rocks. I know each of them. They were like vampires. They turned on me like werewolves. They did. Why? Because I said you can't trade in an undesignated spot. Now, tell me in the comments. Tell me. What I've explained to you. And I'm not talking to those that hate me, because there are a bunch of you that do, and that's fine. You're fine to do that. This is social media. But I'm talking to you that are level-headed and that have heard and understood my line of logic. Has what I said to you, has it made sense? And was I wrong for calling for order? Tell me. I'm going to need one more favor from you. Please petition Lusaka City Council. In particular, Councillor Mwanza, TC, who has been very helpful. TC, Lusaka City Council. Petition the council to make sure that the market runs correctly. I won't even mention Mayor Chitangala because, you know, the mayor is PF, and she, in her mind, I don't know, she regards me as, I don't know, as UPND or something, and she doesn't ever help me, ever. And it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about the community. Okay? It's got nothing to do with me. I'm just a these marketeers have just used me to vent their anger and their frustration. Frustration that is born out of their own selfishness, because they were given letters, but they decided to sublet their spaces to make a profit. They want to double tobela. There's nothing wrong with being an entrepreneur, but be an entrepreneur by playing by the rules. Be fair. Level playing field. Do not take advantage of the situation because you are a marketeer and then you use that crutch. The crutch. Tivutika. Muvutika chani. You were given offer letters. You subletted your space. You started occupying an illegal spot. That's the bone of contention. The town clerk sent people to remove you from there. What, now all of a sudden we're bad for saying that? All right. Petition the council. Petition Councillor Mwanza. Ward Ward 12, Harry Mwangankumbla Ward, Councillor Aaron Mwanza. Petition him. Guys, I know Councillor Mwanza has a lot on his plate. Being a councillor is not easy. I know that. The market is not the only place that Councillor Mwanza hangs out. He's got his entire ward to deal with. We understand that. But place competent people in the market. People that have a passion for the functionality of the market. There's so much work that can be done there. But it's being misused. Just because what? It's a government jaboma. So because Niboma, let's just take advantage. No. Petition town clerk. Petition the mayor. Mayor Chitangala. Petition her. Tell her, please put competent people in the market who have a passion for that market to function within the circumference of the law. Don't let lawlessness reign in there. Already it's raining lawlessness in that market. There is absolutely no leadership in that market. It's total bedlam. Why? Because the people who are tasked with taking care of the market, the committee members, they are all corrupt. They are all looking out for number one, numero uno. They're charging marketeers to make money for themselves instead of concentrating on the functionality of the market. Yo, ichinchaboma ti dierepo. To dierepo at whose expense? The market's expense. Petition local government. The new minister. We almost died today. And I don't say that lightly. And some of you will say, no, but why didn't you photograph? Why didn't you, when you were being attacked? Yeah, that's easy for you to say because you didn't have 200 people after you. Very easy for you to say that. But they would never do that to an Indian. They would never attack a Lebanese. They would never attack a Chinese man. But they'll attack me. Because I'm black. Because I'm black. Black on black crime. That's the world we live in. Yeah. Thanks for watching.